They say the Ashwick Hotel was built with 112 rooms. But that's not true. There's a 113th. You won't find it on the blueprints. The elevator skips the floor, and the staff won't speak its number. But I've seen it. And now I wish I hadn't. My name is Detective Rhys Calder. I don't take cases from the dead, but this one came close. It began with a phone call from Vivian Lane, manager of the Ashwick, a Gothic, 12-story monument to old money and older sins. She sounded calm, too calm. "It's about a guest," she said. "He checked in 4 nights ago, room 913, except we don't have a room 913. "You mean he lied?" "I mean the room doesn't exist. Not officially, not in the system, not even on the master key circuit. But it's there." Pause. "It's there now." I arrived before sunset. The building loomed over Ashwick Avenue like it wanted to swallow the rest of the street. Black wrought iron gates, windows like eyes, gargoyles on the ledge just for the hell of it. Inside, the lobby was polished marble and whispers. Vivian greeted me with a tight smile and a file already prepared. She handed me a guest ledger. Name, Julian Marr. Date of check-in, unknown. Room number, 913. "There's no record of his booking," she said. "But we found this in the safe." She handed me a key, old brass, hand-numbered 913. "He never came down for meals. No calls, no maid access. But last night we received a noise complaint. Heavy footsteps, a man talking to someone else. And when you went to check, there was a door, one we've never seen before, on the 9th floor, between 912 and the stairwell. It's not part of the floor plan. I took the key. It felt heavy. Let me guess. You didn't open it." She looked at me, pale. "We tried. The knob turned, but the door wouldn't budge until this morning. Now it's unlocked." "And the guest?" She shook her head. "No one's seen him." I took the elevator up to the 9th. Doors opened with a tired chime. The hallway smelled like old linen and secrets. Rooms 909, 910, 911, 912, and then there it was, a door with a brass plaque, 913. I tried the key. The lock turned with a soft click. The door creaked open. The room inside was wrong. Everything was mirror-perfect, elegant, silent. But the light didn't behave the way it should. Shadows leaned the wrong way. The air smelled faintly of lavender and wet stone. And on the writing desk by the window, a single envelope with my name written on it. Detective Rhys Calder. The envelope had no seal, just my name in black ink. The strokes too smooth to be written by hand, but too imperfect to be typed. I opened it with care. Inside was a single piece of parchment, old and textured, like something pulled from a forgotten journal. The message was short. "You found the door. Good. I was hoping you would. Don't believe what they tell you. It's not the room that's haunted. It's the number. J.M. Julian Marr." I scanned the room again. It looked like a typical luxury suite. Plush armchairs, an antique armoire, a queen bed with velvet sheets. But the stillness was unnatural. Not peaceful. Dead. As if no one had ever truly lived in this space. I checked the bathroom. Spotless. No towels, no toothbrush, not even soap. The minibar was fully stocked, but coated in a thin layer of dust. Back in the main room, I opened the armoire. Inside hung a single coat. Black, tailored, modern. And beneath it, neatly folded, a white shirt, a pair of trousers, and a black leather journal. I pulled it free. The cover was unmarked, but inside were pages filled with tight, organized handwriting, dated entries, observations, and one repeated phrase written in the margins of every other page. I can't leave if I know it's still open. I flip to the most recent entry. Day 4. The window doesn't reflect me anymore. I see the room, the street, the trees, but I'm not there. The phone rings at 3:13 every night. It never rings more than once. When I answer, no one speaks. But I hear breathing, my own. I know it's mine. But I'm not holding the receiver. The room moves slightly, like it's inhaling. It's waiting. Watching. I think the number isn't just on the door. I think it's in me now. I close the journal, spine tingling. There was a phone on the nightstand. Vintage. Rotary. It rang. Once. My hand hovered over the receiver. The second I touched it, the line went dead. I stood in silence for a long time, watching the curtains flutter even though the windows were shut. Whatever this room was, it wasn't built, it was summoned. And something inside wanted me to stay. I spent another hour inside room 913, though it felt like longer. Time bends in places like that, not in minutes or hours, but in pressure. In weight, I felt it in my chest, like being too deep underwater. The mirrors were bothering me. There were 3 in the room, one above the vanity, one in the armoire door, and a tall one in the corner, full length, framed in silver ivy. They all reflected the room exactly. Furniture, lamp, desk, but not me. I stood in front of each one, moving my hand, waving. Nothing. Just the room behind me, like I wasn't there at all. I took out my phone to snap a photo, pointed it at the mirror. In the screen, I saw my own face, drawn, pale, staring back. But when I looked up, the mirror still showed nothing. I returned downstairs to Vivian Lane. She was in the office now, hands folded, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "You found the room?" she asked. "Yes," I said. And I found Julian Marr's journal. She stiffened. "You knew him." A pause. "I met him once," she said, briefly. "A guest last year said he was a writer. Booked under a different name, stayed in room 910, but he asked strange questions, wanted to know if the floor numbers ever changed." I frowned. How would that even be possible? She shook her head. I didn't know what to tell him. Then one day, he checked out. Or so we thought. He left his key at the front desk, but we never found his bags. And 2 weeks later, the night clerk heard a phone ringing in room 913, which still didn't exist. She nodded. But when he went up, the door was there. I set the journal on her desk. He wrote that the room watches, that it moves. Vivian went pale. I pushed further. "When was the hotel built?" 1913, she said softly. "By whom?" She hesitated. "A man named Elias Marr." The air shifted. "Relative?" "We think so, but there's little history left. Fires, lost records, and strange disappearances, always tied to this floor, always around a guest no one remembers checking in." "And you never told anyone?" "We tried," she whispered. "But once you know, it's too late. Once you see the door, it doesn't go away." She turned the journal toward her and read the last line aloud. "I think the number isn't just on the door. I think it's in me now." I reached for the guest ledger again, thumbing through recent check-ins. One page was different, too crisp, newer ink. Under today's date, someone had written, "Room 913, Rhys Calder." My name. My room. I hadn't signed anything. And yet, it was there. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, at least not the kind with teeth and shadow, This was a quieter dread, like knowing you've lost something but can't name what. I stayed in room 913. I had to. If this place had chosen me, I needed to know why. At 3:13 a.m., the phone rang again. One ring. I answered. Silence. But this time, the silence was wrong. Not quiet, but filled, like something breathing through static. Then a voice, soft, distant. You signed the book. And then, click. Morning came with no sun, only a dull gray glow filtering through the curtains. I left the room briefly, needing fresh air, or at least air that hadn't been exhaled by a century of secrets. I walked the perimeter of the hotel. Nothing unusual, just old brick, ivy, and the scent of mildew where the rain never reached. But in a small alley behind the building, I found something odd. A metal door, half rusted, bolted shut. Beside it, a discarded picture frame wrapped in cloth. Curious, I pulled it free and blew off the dust. Inside was an old black and white photograph of the Ashwick lobby, taken sometime in the 1950s. Bellhops, guests, a piano player in the corner. But standing near the check-in desk was a man in a dark coat, staring directly at the camera. His face was faint, but familiar. Julian Marr. Same eyes, same angular jaw. The man from the journal. Except this photo was decades older than he should have been. I took the photo back to Vivian. She went pale the moment she saw it. That was found in storage years ago, she said. We had it restored, but it kept reappearing in strange places. Eventually, we locked it away. In the alley? No, in the vault. Someone, or something, took it out. I showed her the man in the photo. She nodded slowly. We think that's Elias Marr. I sat down hard, the original builder. She nodded again. Julian's journal said the number wasn't on the door. It was inside him. What if this isn't about Julian at all? What if it's about Marr, both of them? What are you saying? I think room 913 is a loop, I said. A trap. A pocket built by the first Marr and somehow inherited by the second. Vivian's hands were shaking. Why you? That was the part I hadn't answered, until I looked again at the photograph. In the far corner, near the elevator, was another figure, barely visible, a blur. But I recognized the coat, the face. Me, standing in a photo taken 60 years ago, looking straight back at myself. I left the hotel. I didn't pack, didn't check out, just walked out the front doors with the photograph stuffed in my coat pocket and a name, Marr, looping through my head like a skipping record. I needed air, distance, answers. But mostly, I needed a drink. I drove west until the city faded behind me. Found a bar that didn't ask questions and a stool that didn't creak too loudly. The kind of place where ghosts pay in cash and no one checks IDs after dark. I ordered bourbon. Neat. The bartender slid it over. Rough day? You ever hear of room 913? I asked. He stopped wiping the counter. His eyes shifted, slow, deliberate. Then he leaned in and said, Where? I told him. He stepped back. That room's supposed to be closed. You've heard of it? He nodded. Used to know a guy. Bellman. Worked at Ashwick back in the 70s. Said the elevators would sometimes stop between floors. Said guests would complain about hearing people walking above them, but they were on the top floor. What happened to him? Disappeared, he said. Left a note behind. What did it say? He stared at me for a long time. Then, don't answer the phone. Don't sign the book. Don't look in the mirror too long. I left the bar an hour later. The photo was still in my coat pocket. I pulled it out under the streetlight. The figure in the corner, me, was clearer now. Not possible, but undeniable. I was in a photo I had never taken, in a place I had never stood. Unless the room wasn't just a trap. Unless it was a loop, a door, sure, but also a lens. Looking back, pulling back. When I returned to my apartment, my phone was ringing. Unlisted number. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. "You left the room," a voice whispered. Male, familiar. "Julian? It doesn't like that? Who is this?" Silence. Then, "You signed your name." My mouth went dry. That's how it starts. The room sees you, follows you, you can change the locks, burn the ledger, it doesn't matter. Once you carry the number, it knows. What does it want? It wants to come through, but it needs you to believe it's real. And then, click. The line went dead. I checked my apartment, every mirror, every phone jack. The reflection still showed me, but it didn't move quite right. When I blinked, the man in the mirror didn't. There was something else, too. On the back of my front door. In faint black ink. 913. I left my apartment at dawn. I didn't lock the door, didn't need to. Whatever was coming for me had no use for locks. It had followed me home. The number, I thought I could run from it. Hide in cities without elevators, hotels without ninth floors. But when I passed a street sign that morning and saw the route marker, 913 South, I knew it wasn't just following. It was inside. I drove back to Ashwick. The hotel was quieter than usual. No guests in the lobby, no staff at the desk, just the antique clock ticking behind the velvet curtain and the sound of my own footsteps on marble. Vivian met me at the stairwell. "You shouldn't have left," she said, voice low. I had to know. "Do you know now?" I didn't answer. She handed me a piece of folded paper. "Someone left this for you." I opened it, same parchment as before, same handwriting. "You're almost there, Calder. The room doesn't move. It remembers. The question is, do you?" JM. "What does that mean?" I asked. But Vivian was already turning away. I took the elevator up alone. The panel blinked as usual. 1, 2, 3, skipping 9. But when I pressed the old brass emergency override button I'd noticed days earlier, the indicator jumped. 9. The elevator shook slightly, then rose. The doors opened with a sigh. The hallway was longer than I remembered. Room 908, 909, 910. I passed 912 and stood in front of 913 again. Same door, same plaque, same shadow that seemed to lean toward me. I unlocked it. And this time, the inside was different. No bed, no desk, just walls. Blank, gray, and pulsing faintly, like lungs in slow inhale. The corners stretched upward like cathedral spires, and the mirrors. There were mirrors everywhere now. The entire ceiling was one great sheet of polished glass. My reflection stared down from above, delayed by a heartbeat. My movements didn't match. I stepped inside. The door shut behind me. And from the center of the room a voice whispered, "Do you remember now?" The walls shifted, and I saw it. Another version of me, standing in the mirror, wearing my coat, holding the journal I'd left in Vivian's office, but his eyes weren't mine. They were empty, and behind him, the shadows began to move. The man in the mirror didn't blink, didn't breathe, but he moved, perfectly matched to me at first, then not. He tilted his head left when I turned mine right, raised a hand I hadn't lifted, smiled when I didn't. It was like watching myself dream without my permission. Behind him, the shadows churned. Not like smoke, not like fog, like something waiting for form. "Who are you?" I asked aloud. The reflection grinned wider. Then it said in my voice, "I'm the version you left behind." My blood turned to ice. "You're not real. Neither are memories. But they still haunt." I backed away, heart pounding. The air in the room grew thick, like syrup in my lungs. My hands shook. I reached for the doorknob. Gone. The wall was smooth, sealed. The room had no exit. The reflection took a step forward, inside the mirror. But the image grew clearer, sharper, until I could see details I didn't remember. Scars I never had. Lines on a face that wasn't aged by time, but by regret. "You came back here because you wanted to remember." "I don't know what you're talking about." "No," it said, leaning in. "You don't remember the woman at the Ashwick who asked for help in 2013? The one who vanished the next day? Room 913. You saw the number back then." The memory struck me like a match in a dry forest. Vivian. 10 years ago. Not the manager, the guest. Same name, same face. I had met her before. But the case went cold. Vanished like the others. "You forgot her," the mirror me said. "You forgot everything. So the room brought you back." "I didn't sign up for this," I hissed. "You signed the ledger," it said. "That's the only signature that matters." The room began to pulse, light bending inward. The shadows behind the mirror me grew legs. Faces, copies. All of them, me. We all forgot, that's the trick. It doesn't haunt, it doesn't possess, it reminds. I reached for the floor, desperate for anything solid, and found the journal. Not Julian Marr's. Mine. My handwriting. The first line read, "Day 6, I forgot again, but the mirror remembers. So I'll write it all down. Maybe this time it will stick." Below it, another name scratched out violently. Rhys Calder. And under that, in fresh ink, Julian Marr. I stared at the name. Julian Marr, written in my own hand. But that wasn't the part that made my fingers go numb. It was what was beneath it. Light pencil marks, faint but still legible under the right angle of reflection. A layer someone tried to erase. Another name. Rhys Calder. My name. And a date, July 13th, 2013. The memories didn't come in a flood, they came like flickers, scratches in old film. The room, the mirror, the woman who vanished, Vivian. Only, back then, she wasn't the manager. She was the one who called me for help. She said her husband had gone missing after checking into a room that didn't exist. She gave me a key. 913. I dropped the journal. My pulse was racing now, ears ringing. The mirror showed the other me still watching. But now, he wasn't alone. The shadows behind him had formed full silhouettes. People, maybe, all wearing coats like mine, all staring, all waiting. "You never left," said the voice from the glass. "I did," I croaked. "I walked away. Only your body did." Then something new. The mirrored room behind the glass was now different, not a reflection of this one. But the same room, a decade earlier. Same wallpaper, same lamp, a rotary phone beside the bed. And on the floor of that room, me, lying unconscious, or worse. The realization twisted in my gut. I never solved Vivian's case in 2013 because I never left. Not really. Some part of me, maybe my name, my role, my identity, had stayed trapped here, feeding the room, resetting the loop, until now. until I came back to finish what I didn't remember starting. I turned to the wall, no door, no exit, just me and the mirror. I stepped toward it, journal in hand. If I was Julian now, if this room made him, just like it was trying to make me, then maybe it was time to break the cycle. Maybe names weren't the only thing it fed on. Maybe it fed on forgetting. I held up the journal and shouted, "This is who I am. Rhys Calder. I remember everything." The mirror cracked. A fine hairline fracture down the center. The room shuddered. So did the reflection. The other me began to scream. Soundless, but guttural. Mouth wide, eyes melting into black voids. And then the mirrors exploded. Glass rained everywhere. And from the center of the room where the reflection had stood, a door appeared. Old. Wooden. With a brass plaque. Exit. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the journal, shielded my face from the shards still falling like rain, and stepped toward the door. The plaque read exit, but it didn't glow like an emergency sign. It pulsed, faintly, like a heartbeat, like it was waiting to see what I'd choose. I reached for the knob. It was warm. Alive. The door opened, not into a hallway, but into room 913 again. But different. Familiar. It was the room as I'd seen it on my first day in the case. Bed made, curtains drawn, writing desk untouched. The place hadn't aged a second. Except one thing had changed. The man sitting in the chair, back turned, facing the window. A black coat hung on the backrest. His hands rested calmly in his lap. I knew, without needing to see the face. It was Julian Marr. "Is it over?" I asked. He didn't turn, but he spoke. "That depends. Do you remember who you are?" "Rhys Calder." "Are you sure?" I stepped closer. "You were a name, a journal, a memory I carried." He nodded. "And so were you." He finally turned. The face wasn't mine. Not exactly. But close. Like a brother I'd never met. Or maybe a future I'd once been headed toward. "You're not the first to try to break it," he said. "But you may be the last." "Why me?" "Because you remembered. You forced it to show its hand." He handed me something. The original guest ledger. The one I never signed. But now my name was written clearly. Rhys Calder, 913. Beneath it, dozens of names. All crossed out. All the same handwriting. Julian Marr. "The room erases us," he said, "one by one, until there's no version of you left except the one it writes." "And what happens if I burn the book?" Julian smiled faintly. "Then you wake up." He leaned back. "Or you vanish, but at least it'll be your choice." I stood over the fireplace, took a match from the desk, lit the corner of the ledger. The fire spread fast. The pages curled, blackened, names shriveling into smoke. The room began to scream, not with sound but with pressure, like the walls were folding inward. Julian closed his eyes. "Remember your name, Rhys. Whatever happens, don't let them write over it again." The fire flashed white. The room disappeared. And I was falling, not into darkness, but into memory. When I opened my eyes, I was in bed. A real bed. Cotton sheets. Morning sun. Birds outside a window that actually opened. No velvet curtains. No mirror, no plaque. Just me. Alive. I sat up, heart pounding, checked my arms, my hands, my reflection in the dresser mirror. It blinked when I did. I said my name aloud. Rhys Calder. Still me. Still here. I stumbled into the hallway and found Vivian standing at the front desk, talking to a guest. Same face, same eyes. But she looked younger. Or maybe I looked older. When she saw me, she smiled. "Mr. Calder, I didn't expect you to wake up so early." I blinked. "Have we met?" She looked puzzled. "Of course. You checked in yesterday, room 210. My heart skipped. "Not 913? 913? She frowned. "We don't have a room 913. I didn't speak because I believed her. The number meant nothing to her. No weight, no shadow in her tone, like it had never existed. I checked my wallet. My ID was intact. The journal was gone. So was the photograph. No signs, no proof. But in my coat pocket, a key. Brass. Blank. No number. Just a smooth, worn surface, like something that had been erased. I checked out an hour later. Drove until Ashwick was just a name on a map behind me. Stopped at a rest area. Washed my face. Tried to breathe. I thought it was over. That I had escaped. But when I turned to throw the paper towel in the bin, I saw something on the bathroom wall. A small square of faded wallpaper had peeled back. And written beneath it, scratched in faint, looping letters. 913 remembers. I drove back to the city. Filed the case. Closed it. But I didn't forget. Because that's what it wants. It feeds on forgetting. If you forget the number, it can hide again. In walls, in floorboards, in stories. And when someone finds it, when they see the plaque or answer the phone or write their name in the book, it starts again. But not with me, not this time, because I remember. My name is Rhys Calder, and there is no room 913, except when there is. A week passed, then 2. I didn't go back, not because I was afraid, but because I was waiting, watching. I needed to be sure that it was over, that burning the ledger had broken the loop, that remembering my name was enough. But evil, true evil, never disappears. It just waits for silence. It came in the mail, no return address, a small envelope, parchment, lavender scented. Inside a single key, brass, worn, and this time engraved clearly, 913. And beneath it a note, "We don't forget you either. J.M." I returned to the Ashwick. Couldn't stop myself. Vivian wasn't at the front desk anymore. No one was. The lobby was dark, even at midday. The piano was gone, the fireplace cold. The elevator doors hung open like a mouth too tired to speak. But when I stepped in, the panel no longer skipped 9. It was lit, glowing softly. 913. I pressed it. No resistance. The doors closed. The elevator hummed and rose. The hallway on the 9th floor was perfect. Clean. Silent. Still. I walked past rooms I'd never seen before. 918, 919, 920. And then, at the very end, room 913. No flickering plaque, no shadow, no heartbeat in walls. Just the door. And the number. I unlocked it, stepped inside, and found nothing. No furniture, no light, just an open floor of polished black wood, and on the far wall, a mirror. One single perfect mirror. No reflection. Not at first. Then, a shimmer. And a figure appeared. Me. But not the one I remembered. Older, worn, dressed in black, a faint scar beneath the left eye. He stared at me like I was the memory. Then he spoke. "You're not the first Rhys Calder to think he won." My blood froze. I stepped forward. "You're lying." He shook his head. "I'm what's left of the first of all of us." He reached toward the glass. and whispered, "You didn't escape. You just made room." The floor creaked beneath me, the mirror cracked, and the walls began to close. The mirror split clean down the middle, a thin hairline fracture like a seam. And behind it, the figure who wore my face took a step back, into the dark. I should have run, but I didn't. Because this wasn't about escape anymore. This was about ending it. The door behind me vanished. No surprise there. Room 913 never let you leave through the way you came. The lights overhead dimmed to nothing, leaving only the soft pulse of light from within the mirror, like a heartbeat echoing across glass. I walked forward, and with every step I saw more versions of me. In every shard of mirror, Rhys Calder in a trench coat, younger, older, wounded, afraid. Julian Marr. The others. We weren't reflections. We were recordings, impressions. Names that had been overwritten again and again, like pages torn out and glued back in the wrong book. But one page remained. Mine. The journal reappeared in my hand. No explanation. No sound. It was blank. Except for one line written in fresh ink. "You are the final witness." I looked up. The fractured mirror had begun to splinter outward, revealing what lay beyond. A library. Impossible in size. Rows and rows of ledgers, journals, photographs. Everyone who had ever stayed in room 913. This wasn't a room. It was a memory vault. A prison made of identity. And the only way to destroy it was to do what none of the others had done. Not run, not forget, but accept. I opened the journal, wrote my name slowly, one last time. Rhys Calder. And then I wrote underneath, "I remember, I am not yours." The room began to shake, not in violence, but release, like something exhaling its final breath after a century of holding it in. The mirrors crumbled to dust. The walls softened into mist. The door returned. Wooden, simple, no number. Just a plaque that read, "Leave." I stepped through, and found myself in the Ashwick lobby once more. Sunlight poured through the high windows. The piano played itself. Soft, warm, clean. Vivian stood at the front desk, looking at peace. She smiled. "Checking out, Mr. Calder?" I nodded. "Room?" "None," I said. "There is no room 913. She smiled wider. "That's right," and handed me my coat. As I walked outside, the hotel shimmered behind me just for a moment, like a memory trying to hold on. But I didn't turn back. I kept walking. Because some rooms only exist as long as someone believes in them. And I didn't believe anymore.